how are we going to start this?
I wonder if that will ever get old. Probably. It may already have gotten old. But you know what isn't old? The 7th episode of Shouting Over Static, a video game show and tell project.
Brilliant segue. I loved it.
Yeah! Mate, I am the hostess with the mostest. Right. Speaking of being the host with the most, I am your host, Mark. I'm joined by Dylan.
Hello.
And I'm joined by Jack.
Hello.
Sweet. How's everyone doing?
Yeah, I'm pretty good.
Yeah, not too bad, mate. My Switch turned up today, so I'm pretty happy. I've got Mario Odyssey downloading in the background.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
You Switch having bastards.
It's a pretty cool console. You should get one.
Yeah, I so nearly bought one yesterday, but
I like the part where it has Super Mario on it.
that is a good part.
Yeah. Do you almost get one in that Amazon sale?
Yeah, I heavily considered it, but then I thought, you know what? Black Friday's bad. I shouldn't.
This is true. Black Friday does suck.
Yeah.
Did you see a bit of Black Friday banter? Did you see that news coverage of the insane Black Friday blowout at Curry's?
Yeah.
I saw that.
Where one dude turned up to pick up his pre-ordered laptop.
He wasn't even there for Black Friday. It's so good.
That was so funny.
Like, they had an entire fucking news team there, and just one dude turned up at Curry's to get his laptop. I loved it. I thought it was great.
So good. It was just like it just typified how like the Americans blow it out of proportion, and we're just here like, yeah, just go into the store.
Our Black Friday is the post-Christmas sales, isn't it?
Yeah,
Boxing Day sales, yeah.
Yeah, like we do the exact same thing then. It's
I
just
guess.
nobody cares about it at Black Friday because I imagine lots of people just forget because I didn't know which day was like last week. I didn't know which day was going to be Black Friday because I thought, tomorrow's Friday. Could that be it?
If you don't have
Maybe.
Thanksgiving, then the idea of sales the day after of Thanksgiving doesn't actually really hold any water.
Yeah.
I legitimately don't know when it's going to be Black Friday until on Reddit everyone's like, it's Thanksgiving today, and it's like, oh okay, it's tomorrow then.
You get all the usually in the week leading up to it, most gaming websites would be like, here are the top Black Friday deals to watch out for. Like PC Gamer always does their on Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Here are the best places to buy new hard drives.
Yeah.
Pro tip: there's someone slinging a 500 gig SSD for like 120 quid, which is a pretty good deal.
That's
Oh damn.
pretty good.
Yeah,
I'm just going to go turn off my extract fan.
I like it. So, I think that's like a nice minute's digression. A nice warm up intro to today's show. So the point of Shouting Over Static, because we totally didn't actually cover that in the intro, is that each week, it was a fun intro. Each week, one of us brings a game to the virtual table and we discuss it and just sort of see where the conversation goes. See what happens when three men, because Tom isn't here, talk about a video game. And it's my turn this week. Yeah, me. And the game that I have brought is Hotline Miami.
Oh, brilliant.
There we go. So I take it from those responses that we don't necessarily need to do our traditional what's everyone's history with the franchise.
I think we've all played Hotline Miami, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Have we all beat it?
Nope.
I beat the first one.
Yeah.
I've not played the second one.
Have you not beat it, Jack?
Nope.
Oh, really?
Oh, man.
It's not very long. You could do it in like one sitting. It's about 4 hours, I think.
Yeah, I know I probably could. I know I probably could sit down and do it, but it's just like one of those ones where you know what I'm like with video games. You know how angry I get.
Yeah, it can get pretty frustrating. Yeah, I got about halfway through it, then didn't play it for a while, then picked it up and played through it all in one sitting from beginning to end, and I've only played 5 hours according to Steam, so it's not a long game.
Yeah.
No, it is really short. But I think it's just the fact that... No, it's not like it's expensive or anything. It's one of those games that you get plenty out of it.
Yeah.
And did you see recently, obviously a thing that completely isn't valid for it, but recently someone tried to make a... Shit, I can't remember what it was. Oh no, it was during the E3 coverage, and Devolver's like post Devolver conference stream.
Oh, their bizarre like meta thing was yeah,
and they had this really weird bit, and they showed like a few of the games they had, but were never going to be released, like Super Smash Bros. Brawl, except just with frogs, and but one of them was randomly generated Hotline Miami.
Yeah, wasn't it like Hotline Miami Project Richard or something?
Yeah, something like that, and just completely impossible.
Yeah.
That's the kind of game that you clearly need to set up.
Yeah, I mean it's a puzzle game. It's not an action game. Like so Hotline Miami is a top-down action, like a hyper-violent action game, but you are just as vulnerable to damage as the people you are fighting, so that the game takes place more as a puzzle game in which through playing the same level over and over again, you work out how, like, you have to run in, then knock a door into this dude, then pick up a bat and throw it at this guy, then pick up a gun and shoot these two guys, then stab this guy, and then run round the corner to get a dog and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more of a puzzle game, is I think actually a more valid way to describe it. Which,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
and
which...
It's very Super Meat Boy, isn't it? Because it's like, you die, you start again straight away.
Yeah, totally.
You just keep going through.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as
die
you said...
until you don't die.
Yeah, as you said, because it requires learning an area to beat it, you can't just have procedurally generated Hotline Miami. I suppose if it was like press a button and it makes a level and then you get to just play that level over and over and over again till you work it out, it's probably really, really difficult but doable. But if it was just like every time you die, it just generates a whole new level.
It did make the same, like, it would make one level and you could keep playing that same level over and over again. But because it is such the puzzle is, like, so well set up, there were legitimately levels that were created that you just couldn't do.
Oh, right.
They had, like, an hour of this guy playing it, just like, yep, this level is fucked.
Imagine that. Imagine if you were the Hotline Miami, like, expert who they got in to play it.
You just couldn't do it.
And he's like, I can't do it. I'm the resident Hotline Miami expert, and I've been beaten.
Imagine that. Imagine having that as your like job title.
Hotline Miami expert.
It's really good at Hotline Miami, guys.
That's it, though. Not good at other games. Only that one. Explanation why, it's just, for some reason I can destroy it.
Considering what that game is all about, I would really feel. I think if someone said, I'm terrible at video games, but I am the world's greatest Hotline Miami player, I would fear for their sanity.
Because they released the second one, didn't they?
They did. Hotline Miami 2, wrong number.
How well received was that one?
Not as well received.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it didn't really get the attention it did. I think it was just...
I think it was a bit longer and a bit weaker and like a bit... My understanding is like it was about twice as long and a lot harder, and the story wasn't as coherent. I don't know. I played a little bit of it. I've got it, but I played a little bit of it and it didn't grip me as immediately, and I didn't really have the drive to go back to it.
Which I think is very key in those sort of games, isn't it? Those small indie games that you don't necessarily need to be gripped for the same amount of time as some AAA games, but they really get you into it for that sort of 10 hours. And then you're done. But if it doesn't do that, then it's got no chance, because, I mean, that's the only reason. It's hard to go back to those games. I think you sort of play those games a lot for a little bit, and then you will go back to them occasionally, but if you haven't finished it, I don't think I often go back to that sort of thing.
Because I guess it's about executing on a premise, isn't it? It's like you've got an idea, and then you demonstrate it, and then you execute on it to its fullest, and then you twist it, and then you finish. Basically, isn't it? Like that's... It doesn't actually necessarily have to be like, oh, this is a 100-hour experience with this other stuff. It's just, okay, we've got one good idea, and we're just going to do it really well. It's not going to overstay its welcome, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Which I think that is like, I think that is a lot of the design like drive behind games like this, where it's like, no, we've got one idea, we're going to do it well, we're going to get in, get out, get done.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's just countless examples you can think of as well, right? I mean, if I looked through my Steam library now, it would just be game after game that I had a really good short amount of time with, and it's just like, yeah, that was a sick game, but
Yeah, well, like, because it came out in 2012, and it came out during like the great indie game era of 2012, where just loads of sweet indie games came out. Because 2012, I believe, was also when like FTL came out,
yeah,
which is excellent. I mean, I've actually just got up a list of the 2012 indie games. So, mate, Frog Fraction came out in 2012. FTL came out in 2012. Yeah, like, just, oh man. What else? Oh, you have to click and drag to get through this list. Yeah, just it was a solid year. Fez came out in 2012. Fez is sweet. Fez is a good puzzle game.
I feel like I know the name, but I don't remember it. I'm gonna Google it. Obviously, googling Fez did not work. Oh yeah, I know the one.
You know Fez. Fez is the super weird puzzle game. Like Dust and Elysian Tale, Dear Esther. It's like serious indie. Spelunky came out in 2012.
Shit, that's a big one.
Like 2012 was a good year for indie games. For that kind of, we've got a concept and we're going to execute on it really well. It's going to be a solid experience, and it's not going to take up hundreds of hours of your time. Though also in the cases of things like Spelunky, it totally could take up.
Totally could, yeah.
Yeah.
Like that exam season that we just played Risk of Rain, just non-stop.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. Risk of Rain. That wasn't 2012, was it? Risk of Rain. That was a bit later.
I don't think so. I think because we played that 2014.
Yeah. But that's another one. That's another one that's like a solid run-based, procedurally generated indie game that you can make. It can take an hour of your time or 50 hours of your time, depending on if it catches you.
Yeah, for sure. That is the kind of game that you can easily get, and I guess because you can just play it, you don't have to really get into it, and it's still really fun.
Yeah.
But then if you do really get into it, it sort of adds a whole other bit to it.
I think that's basically like the blueprint of like what makes a good indie game, isn't it? It's one of those ones where you can go and play it, sit down and have fun, and it's not too long, but you know it's always something that you're going to go back to, and you know that it can take up to, you know, like you guys say, it can take up to 10 hours, it can take up to 50 hours of your time, but it's always going to be a good experience every time you go back to it.
Yeah.
Definitely, 100%. I'm just looking through my Steam list and being like, what else? Because there are quite a few that fall into that sort of that style of game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like Dylan said with Super Meat Boy as well, it's like one of those games that is enjoyable and it's frustrating at times, but you can sink if you get into a rhythm with it, you can sink so many hours into it.
Oh yeah, you could lose your life to that fucking game.
I did almost at one point.
Little Inferno, did you ever play that?
No, not at all.
That was this. It's not one of the ones you can lose loads of time to, but just one of the. It's more of that. It's just got a concept. You do it once, you have a good time, and then you're done. But that was. I'm trying to remember exactly what you did, but I remember playing that just non-stop until I'd finished it. In a very sort of similar thing. You burn stuff essentially. It's like a puzzle game where you've got to burn things and stuff comes out of it.
The pyromaniac's wet dream.
Oh, like, really, it's set in like this weird. I think it's sort of like a post-apocalyptic situation, and there's a bunch of sort of dark stuff going on, and weird stuff happening with children and fire and all this kind of nonsense. But yeah, like one of those things where you literally you'll sit there, you'll play it until you're done, because it's really it's got you involved.
Not a long game.
No, not at all. I think I spent 2 hours on it.
Yeah, that's not long at all.
Not at all. But I think it was just like sat down for 2 hours until I was done.
Similar again to that kind of 2 to 5 hours of solid gameplay and then you're done, but it's a really incredible experience that leaves a lasting impression. Gunpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gunpoint's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely incredible game. Awesome. And again, it's the same kind of thing. It introduces a concept, it elaborates on it, it solidifies it, and then it twists it, and then it's done. It's like you can hack and you can jump. You've got your bionic trousers and your sick hacking tool, and then it introduces it, and then it gets more and more complex, and then it reaches its sort of zenith, and then you're done. And you go, that was great. That didn't outstay its welcome at all. I actually in the Steam sale I picked up Heat Signature. His second game, so I'm looking forward to having a go at that, because I think that is very similar, but I think it's got a slightly more procedurally generated edge to it.
Yeah, I didn't realise it was actually out yet.
Yeah,
I
dude.
seeing the sort of stuff for that coming out, and it one of those games that from the guy who made Gunpoint, I think you've got a fairly good chance of it being good, because that is a
beloved
well-made game.
Indie game. Yeah.
I think on the complete opposite of the you do something and then you're done for good is Terraria.
Oh, I love Terraria.
Yeah.
Like a similar idea of you can get lost in it, but you don't finish.
No.
Although I was kind of annoyed by this because I played till I'd unlocked everything. And then just kind of once that's happened, you get a bit, what do I actually do now? And then I went back to it a while later, and they'd released this update for it that had, like, hoverboards and shit like that.
Yeah, man.
And there was just so much new content that I needed to get. It was like, well, this is too much.
Yeah.
I just wasn't in that right.
It was like
picked it up now. I'd actually get lost again, but
almost certainly. Like I think it was about the third time they added in a whole new tier of like different ores. That I was just like, oh, there's so much here now. Like, it used to be that there was the stuff pre the Wall of Flesh and post the Wall of Flesh. And that was like a sort of 50-50 split of, like, gameplay. It was like, you get up to hard mode and you do hard mode. Or you get up to... was it hard mode? Yeah, it was hard mode. And then you do hard mode. And now it's like, you get up to hard mode and then the game starts. And then there's, like, bosses on bosses on bosses on bosses.
yeah. Like, I remember getting very annoyed by the fucking dragon that just occasionally flies in.
Yeah.
Nothing you can do about it. It just flies through your shit. No one can hide from it.
Just fucks you up.
Yeah. You have to kill it, and if you're not prepared, then fuck you.
Yeah, then you just die. It's like, well, start again. Oh, well, I don't have to necessarily start again, but I know it's such great hashtag content. I'm just going through my Steam list just so I can pick out some more games that are like emblematic of this style of.
Did you ever play Bastion?
Oh, Bastion's sweet.
Again, we're just going through all these. But I love Bastion. Bastion was so good.
Yeah, man.
Then I've got Transistor as well. I never finished that because I picked it up around exam time and that was a bad idea. But like those, I think that game is just perfect. I love Bastion.
It's so clever.
Yeah, it's just one of those games that I don't know, because it's got this nice sweet story to it, but as well there's a sense of actual progress in it. So because you're getting more stuff as you go through, but it's not in any way sort of bloated or something like that. It's obviously everybody goes through it in the same way, but it does feel like you're doing really well.
Yeah, definitely. It's
And it feels like you're picking for yourself. But
yeah, it's a sweet game.
There's like slightly different tiers of what you get, if I remember correctly. You can have, like you can pick sort of which gun or which hammer you're using or something like that.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of different weapons, and then there's some upgrades, different upgrades for them as well, aren't there? So you can sort of craft it. Because I always thought the most interesting thing about Bastion as well was the conversation around it was always people going, oh, well, you have to use the hammer and the pistol or whatever. And we were going, no, Why would you ever use those? So I used the whip for the entire game or whatever, and it was. Well, I used the sword for the entire game, and it was one of those things where it had weapons in it, but all the weapons were so interesting that they suited everyone's like individual playstyle. So it was a very broad game to get into in that respect, which I always appreciated in the conversation around it. I thought it was a good sign that it was well designed.
Yeah, definitely. Man, I really want to play Bastion now.
Have you seen anything about their most recent game, Pyre?
Yes, I did. I remember because there was a game that came out just before they announced Pyre that looked basically identical to Transistor, and I thought that was their new game. But then I saw Pyre was actually by Supergiant Games, and there's almost, if I remember right, there's some weird like card element to it, right?
It's a cross between like a road trip RPG and a sports sim.
Weird.
Yeah, it's like there's this game called Pyre, which is like weird post-apocalyptic basketball or something. And then you're also one of the few people in the future who's like literate, who can actually read.
Yeah.
And so you basically go on this wild adventure where you're trying to read stuff and save the day, and then also most of the gameplay is you playing like future basketball.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I do remember now.
Yeah, I don't know. Everything I heard about it is either if you like it, then you really, really, really like it and think it's awesome. And if even one bit of it doesn't click with you, it's like, what the fuck is this bullshit?
Yeah. It does look so fucking odd, but it looks... Yeah, I guess this is exactly what we've been saying, isn't it? There's a premise that it has. There's a uniqueness to it that you can get lost in. But I guess sometimes it gets to a point where it's one that isn't that approachable for everybody.
Yeah, I mean that is quite a dense concept, isn't it?
Yeah, I remember watching the gameplay video for it and just being like, "This is what the hell is happening." But it looks like they've sort of made the most of that. If you ever played Transistor, they like changed up the sort of fighting style from Bastion, so it's very similar. But then there's also this planned attack sort of method to it. So you pause time and you've got a certain amount of energy that you can expend in running and using an attack.
Oh, so a bit like that in Fallout, sort of.
Yeah, almost.
Okay.
And sort of, I think they've taken some of that into this sports game. It looks like there's a lot of planning to it to actually get stuff done.
Yeah.
But it does, I trust Supergiant Games to make sort of really interesting, compelling games that you can get lost in for a while.
Yeah, they've got a pretty good track record with it, I would say.
Yeah. I think that other one I was thinking of might have been by Devolver. Devolver's new game, which I can't remember. I'll just find it now. But it's again one of those sort of isomorphic. What is it?
Isometric.
Isometric. That's the one.
Isomorphic. That sounds rad.
I think an isomorph's a thing, right? From something.
Probably. Sounds like some grade A Doctor Who bullshit to me.
Ruiner. That's the one.
Oh,
Anything about
right. Which one? Hang on. What am I thinking of? I'm also googling that.
Super cyberpunky.
Oh yes. Yeah, Ruin is the one that looks fucking rad.
Yeah, and I think the idea is everybody's connected to the internet, and this one guy gets hacked or something, and someone's controlling his life, and he has to go around and kill a bunch of stuff.
He just has to go murder people. But it's like, it's as with all of Devolver's games. I say, because is Devolver even a developer, or are they a publisher? Is it just games that they put out?
Publisher.
Yeah, they're a publisher.
It's just. But everything they put out all seems like it could have been made by one studio who was just really into violence and dubstep.
They make really sort of high concept bloodstep.
Yeah, okay, I'll back that. Yeah, because Ruiner's the one where he's got that wild mask that says really weird shit during the game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like the guy from Watch Dogs 2, but way more sinister.
It's like Watch Dogs 2, but yeah, in a sort of weird, dark universe. Watch Dogs 2 with a goatee strapped to his face.
It's the mirror universe Watch Dogs 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. There are so many excellent experiences you can pick up on Steam for like a tenner at most.
Yeah.
That will give you something you've never ever experienced before for like 5 hours or so.
Yeah, and they're so worth it as well, because if you think, lots of the time, okay, nowadays games are sort of, AAA games often are moving towards a more stick with our game and keep giving us money concept, so it's not just like a 5-hour game. But I guess even a year or two ago, you'd still get quite a few of those where you'd pick up your game for 40 quid, you'd do the campaign, and you'd probably never play it again.
Yeah.
And the amount of money you put into that compared to the amount of money you put into one of these indie games, well, not even indie now. I guess Devolver is a publisher, isn't it? So
Yeah.
one of these, I don't know. It's got a feel to it. I think you can sort of.
Indie has stopped meaning independent and started meaning just a style of game, though, hasn't it? It started meaning just a game that takes 5 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same with music. I mean, there was indie music, and then indie music is now sort of, or not even now. Like I guess a few years ago, if you said indie music, you'd know the vibe it's going for, and like even sort of Arctic Monkeys style feel. It's that, isn't it? It's the same with games.
I guess it's stopped being an adjective and started being a genre.
Yeah, definitely.
to get all linguistic about it.
No, for sure, yeah. But I think those games are worth it because you spend, like you said, like a tenner, and you still get about 5 hours of gameplay. So it's definitely more worth your money a lot of the time.
Unless it's super hot, in which case you spend like 18 quid and you get it done in just under 2 hours.
Yeah, but super hot's really cool.
Yeah, also super. I will never ever judge super hot for that because super hot made me feel things I didn't even know I could feel.
Yeah, there's just I can't remember. There's a term for it, but you see people talking about it on the internet all the time. The amount of money you can put into these things and the amount you
Like a value proposition.
Huh?
Like a value proposition.
Yeah. You even then get something like Minecraft, which I guess does cost money, but I think I got it for free.
Yeah.
Because I didn't play it after it became proper. I don't think.
I
Like,
think
got
one of the
so many hours out of that.
Yeah, I think one of the games that is like sort of twists it a bit. I wouldn't say it's like an indie game as such, but like the Stanley Parable. You pick it up for a couple of quid, and that game makes you go places, and it makes you question your own judgment when you're being told to do stuff, but you get given the option to do something else.
Yeah, it's such an incredible game. Yeah, that is it. Well, it was originally a mod, wasn't it? It was a Half-Life 2 mod that got funded.
For good reason. It's like that. You see people still talking about that on Reddit.
Oh, because it's so fucking funny. Holy shit. It's hilarious.
Like, just the narration in that is so good as well.
Because Minecraft costs $17.95 for Windows and Mac.
See, that's not even that bad for the amount of time I've put into Minecraft.
Yeah.
Like, that got me. I had a lot of fun with that for a while. I wouldn't play it now because I kind of hate it now, but I really liked it for a while.
Terraria for life.
Terraria is pretty good.
Yeah, Jack. I think the Stanley Parable is one of those ones where it's like it doesn't give you a particularly unique gameplay experience. However, it uses the gameplay to enhance its narrative in a way that is like oftentimes almost profound. Like, there's that achievement you can get for just like not leaving. So like the narrator would be like, and Stanley walked out of the room, and then if you just stay in that first room for like 5 hours, you get an achievement or something, don't you?
I don't know. I mean, it's definitely one of those things where you can just walk around and just ignore completely what he's saying, and then you'd think that, oh yeah, I'll go over and do something else, and this guy's not going to know about it. And then you walk into a room, and he's like, oh, Stanley didn't want to listen to me, and he walked over into this room. And you're like, what the hell? How does he know what I'm doing? It's really one of those like sort of weird, surreal experiences where you try and outsmart the narrator, but he's always got a response to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's so clever.
These things that come up on Reddit time and time again of people doing something really weird and then the narrator actually talking about it. Like, there's one where it says, because you can't jump in it, right? But there's one point you can jump or something like that. Something really weird. So it's really specific, and there's no reason why you should find it. But if you do, there's an achievement, and obviously some people have found it.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the list of achievements in the Stanley Parable now, and just to sort of like, just to demonstrate how it uses its scope and its gameplay to enhance its narrative. There's an achievement called Go Outside that you get. Don't play the Stanley Parable for 5 years. Which I believe is literally impossible at the moment because the Stanley Parable came out less than 5 years ago.
Oh my word! That's just so. Oh, that's not, like only a game like that would do that.
It's called Commitment. Play the Stanley Parable for the entire duration of a Tuesday. Yeah, like, and it's so it's you won't even be able to get the unless you change the clock on your computer. I guess you wouldn't even be able to get that 5-year achievement till next year.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's the kind of thing, a AAA game, something that you paid, a AAA game, something that you paid 60 quid for, something you paid 40 quid for, something that was put out by Activision or whatever, or even like Bethesda or something like that, even one of the slightly less top tier publishers wouldn't give you an experience like that, but also gives you I think it does give you an equally valid experience, but it doesn't give you, it will never be that unique.
No, not at all.
Which is the beauty of games like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, yeah, because there's so many games you'll play that will take you through just a linear. It's like you can talk about it with your friends, and it's definitely worth it. Because it's like sometimes, a lot of the time, it's sort of just like watching a really long movie.
Yeah, I mean,
kind of take part in. But then, I don't know what the comparison would be, but some of these indie games are just the stories you get from them, because a lot of the time they don't have their own stories, right?
Yeah, it's like Terraria doesn't have a story in it, but everyone's got a story in Terraria about a time that something weird happened.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know what the comparison in that sort of movie analogy would be, because you don't really get interactive movies. Video games, I guess. Indie games are to AAA games what AAA games are to movies.
Yeah, kind of. But even then, like, also, let's be real. How many times have we spoken about Halo? Like, how many times have we sat down and said, Modern Warfare 2 is so fucking cool, let's play some Modern Warfare 2.
Too many
so, like,
times.
Yeah, so...
That might be then sort of what makes these... You'll have AAA games that you enjoy and are good, and then there'll be AAA games that you fucking love. And I think those ones that you love are the ones that you can make your own stories in, right?
Yeah, I suppose this is true. Or at least the ones that you can connect with. Like...
Yeah.
You like Modern Warfare 2 because it's basically just The Rock, the video game. Like Michael Bay's The Rock, and it's a sweet game, and it's really, really cool to just sort of shout Captain Price quotes at each other. But it is such a different thing to like Hotline Miami, to bring it all full circle.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think one of the
completely different experiences.
One of the standout things about Hotline Miami as well, and we talked about it last episode with Assassin's Creed 4, is just the soundtrack to Hotline Miami really gets you into the game, and it really gets you hooked.
Oh, it's so fucking good. It's one of the few video game soundtracks that I've bought. I had to own it. It's so incredible.
It is great. That is, like you say, Jack, that is part of it, isn't it? It's you just sat there enjoying the soundtrack, and that gets you into the game enough itself. Like, it really creates this environment that, I don't know, it's sensory overload almost.
Well, it gets you in the zone, doesn't it? For the kind of thing that it need, for the kind of shit that game asks you to do, you need some thumping beats to keep you on it. Because otherwise, I think if it didn't have that music, it would get pretty tough to be involved in, wouldn't it? Like, if the music's almost hypnotic.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's so good. It's such an incredible soundtrack. Mate.
I haven't listened to it in a while. I probably should.
I find myself listening to it on a fairly regular basis, even now, 5 years later. Like, probably once a month, I'll just be like, oh shit, I want to listen to Hydrogen by Moon, and put it on, and just be going, yeah, this beat is huge! I think when I got these headphones, actually, first thing I did with them was run, because it said they had bass boost on them. I was like, right, okay, what's the most thumping ass bass track I know? Let's get the Hotline Miami soundtrack on, and just sat at my desk like, yeah, this is sweet.
One really that I've just been reminded of, I don't even know why, 'cause it's not music related, but caught it into my head, was one that we've spoken about. I think we've at least spoken about on the radio show a few times. I don't know if we spoke about on this. But do you remember Overgrowth?
Yes! Rabbit Kung Fu!
Yeah, Rabbit Kung Fu. That recently became a full game.
Actually, yeah, it went 1.0 like a couple of weeks ago, didn't it?
Yeah, which is insane because I bought that game 3 years ago.
Yeah, wasn't it like first year of uni?
3.5 years ago now, yeah. And like I thought that was brilliant. It's not your typical indie game because it's like 3D and it's Watership Down mixed with Kung Fu.
Yeah, it's like someone took a bunch of old like samurai exploitation films and crossed it with Watership Down. It's really bizarre.
But like that weirdly has now released, which is insane to me.
Because when you bought it came with a demo, didn't it? Which was like you could run around on a couple of platforms and like fight an AI dude, and that was it, wasn't it?
Well, so I got it when it was early access.
Yeah, because it's been in early access for
Cool as shit.
yonks.
Until what, like a month ago, I think. But that came with like a few weird It came with a bunch of levels you could run around, which had maybe like 4 enemies in, and then it had the arena thing, which was great fun. Like I somehow, even though it wasn't a complete game, actually put 8 hours into that game. Like all it had was some maps to run around and some people to punch in the face.
Because it had some really incredible like traversal stuff in it as well, didn't it? Which was
so it was like it's this weird rabbit parkour game where the fighting is all, I guess you'd say, inertia based. So the faster you're moving, the more damage you'll do to the other person. But also, like, the damage goes back to you, so if you sort of land on your neck or roll funny, your character will die.
yeah.
But, like, it just feels so fucking sick to play. You're just running around, jump off a wall, throw a sword at someone's head.
Yeah, because it's like a relatively deep three-dimensional combat game that is momentum-based. It ends up feeling like Mirror's Edge with good combat almost, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And it's, I think, another way, we keep going back to this, another one of these completely insane experiences that you just never get anywhere else. Because why would a company invest a bunch of money into this completely absurd idea?
Yeah, you're never going to see Sony putting that out on their fucking E3 press conference, are you?
No, because
it's like,
what is wrong with you?
But yeah, we've got a Sucker Punch. Their latest game they're making exclusive for us is going to be a 3D rabbit kung fu game. What the fuck?
Yeah. Are they the same guys who made this? Are they the ones who made that online fighting game recently?
No. Well, no, because I'm looking at the 3 games they've made on Steam. Lugaru HD, which was like the predecessor to Overgrowth, which is like the shittest looking 2005 rabbit kung fu game. Sensing a theme here, but it just looks like absolute crap. And the other game they did that wasn't Overgrowth was Receiver.
Yeah. Which is insane.
Which is legitimately the weirdest video game on the planet. Have you heard of Receiver, Jack?
No, I have not.
So, Receiver is a first-person video game which spawns you into randomly generated... Oh no, is it... The levels aren't random, are they? But you have to collect items in them, and the items are randomly located.
I think the levels are randomized in some way. I don't know if it's...
Okay.
If it's... like completely or just elements of it.
But the weird thing about it, Jack, is it does like full 3D weapon simulation. So it's got so you have a pistol, and then it's got you have to use about 6 different keyboard buttons to check the magazine, put the magazine back in, remove the safety, pull the slide back, and all these other weird things you have to do with it. Or like if it's a revolver, there's a button for pulling the barrel out and checking it, and then flicking it back in, and all this other stuff. And it's just this super insane like game where you just wander around doing this really, really complex, like hyper realistic weapon combat while shooting these things.
Man.
And I think you pick up cassette tapes that
Yeah.
aren't they but isn't it something really bizarre? Like all the cassette tapes are just like weird chunks of like pseudo scientific nonsense that have been read by, isn't it like Werner Herzog who reads them?
I've no idea. I know it's weird stuff. I can't remember.
It's so bizarre. It's like the most art game that exists.
I'm watching like the Steam trailer for it now that they have, and it just I 100% agree with you. It looks like something that would be very good in like VR.
Yeah, but it was made sort of, I guess, before the rise of VR. It came for free when I got Overgrowth, and I tried playing it once, and it's just fucking impossible. Like, I couldn't figure out how to fire the gun. And occasionally, because it's randomised, occasionally you'd be able to walk a little bit and look around, have some time, but sometimes you'd be randomised with an enemy right next to you, and you'd die immediately, because how the fuck do you fire the gun in this fucking game?
Yeah,
I should have given it more time, but that was insane.
Yeah, like to even understand how to fire the gun, you need to have a really solid understanding of actually how handguns work. Because, like, obviously, in other games you get a handgun and you left click and you've shot the gun, and then in receiver you pick up if you hold the gun, you left click, fucking nothing happens.
Yeah.
It's like eventually, after pressing like 6 different keys that you've had to look up in the fucking options menu, you may be able to work out you may be able to get to a point where you can left click and shoot.
Because it gives you no indication of what to do, like in any way. It just throws you in it. It's fucking madness.
Yeah, I'm just trying to because I'm trying to find a source on this, because I remember that one of the craziest things about it was that I think those tapes are read by someone who's actually quite famous.
Yeah, potentially.
Or at least a relatively big name, because it's just such a bizarre game. Absolutely bizarre. And now they've made a rabbit kung fu game, so of fucking course they have. It makes sense, right? Like, that's what you'd do if you're on that trajectory of just being fucking weird.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of all this nonsense, Pyre is actually on offer today.
Steam sale!
Shout out to capitalism.
Oh, man. Yeah, shout out to them always winning, because I spend more money in a Steam sale than I would otherwise.
Yeah.
It's absolutely disgusting. Oh, yeah, man. Like, I think there is... Because it's interesting, right? So this is, to keep it on a relatively similar topic, something that I've heard a lot recently is talk about this idea that the AAA game became so... Like, video games became so expensive to make that the AAA game became really bloated and huge. And that's where you get, like, the multi-million dollar budgets of Call of Duty and things like that.
Yeah.
The B game, like your classic B tier, like PlayStation 2 game, you know, your Conflict Desert Storms of the world, that weren't as expensive to make, but could get away with also not selling as much. When games got more expensive to make, in like the last generation of consoles, they all sort of died.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have those games really coming out anymore. To the same degree, at least. You know, like, fucking THQ shut down.
Yeah.
Things like that. But it's now the indie game. It's the indie game that was born last generation, effectively. from like Summer of Xbox Live or like Summer of Xbox Arcade, which did kind of almost invent this entire genre with like Braid and shit like that.
Yeah.
The indie game is now filling that gap and going, okay, well, we cost a bit less and don't offer the same size experience as a AAA game or like your classic B game, but we're filling that space in. And now indie games are getting slightly more expensive as well. So like, it's interesting how the big games got so big that they just destroyed that middle tier, and then the bottom tier now is sort of almost growing to fill that space.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like the sort of that low end tier is just sort of the games industry 10 years ago, 20 years ago, right? It's more than 10 years ago now. Fucking hell, we're old.
Yeah, man.
But it's like
The Xbox 360 came out 12 years ago.
oh my god. I still can't believe that the Xbox One came out as long ago as it did. What, that's like
Over 3 years
5
ago
years.
now.
Yeah.
It's 4-ish, I think.
It's
Came
2013, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It came out when we started uni.
Over 4 years ago, because it was like October, wasn't it? Or like November. Maybe it was almost exactly 4 years ago. Yeah, it might have actually been.
It was around November because it was when Grand Theft Auto 5 came out.
That came out September 1st.
Did it really?
Yeah.
It did, indeed.
That was a cross-platform though, wasn't it?
But the next generation version didn't come out till a year later.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Xbox One came out on November the 22nd.
I knew it was November.
It was 4 years ago on Wednesday.
Man.
That's fucking forever ago.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's so long ago. I actually almost can't comprehend that.
Like, I still consider that the sort of new console.
Yeah.
That's weird.
They've made another one since then.
Yeah, true.
Oh, God. We have to get off this topic before we all just get miserable, don't we?
Because the Xbox 360 came out how long before? So, like 8 years before?
2005, yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
about
we're halfway through. We're halfway through the Xbox One now.
I reckon this generation will go longer now, though. Now they've put out half steps.
Definitely.
I reckon what we'll actually get is in another couple of years, in probably another 4 years, we'll probably get another PS4 Pro, Xbox One X style incremental upgrade, and then it'll be 4 years after that.
But I bet it'll be like, it's an incremental upgrade, but the Xbox One will be useless. Like,
I just feel like it's
the
fucking
Xbox
obsolete.
One X will still be usable, and that'll still play the games, but the Xbox One will just not.
Yeah, it will start being like iPhones,
Haha.
Yeah, they slowly become
where eventually,
usable.
yeah, like eventually, after 3 or 4 iterations, you start getting apps that go, no, you need a 3GS or later. And
Yeah.
you go, fuck, I can't use the original anymore. It'll end up being like that. Or I mean, maybe it won't. I don't know. But it probably will,
they can't
right?
keep progressing games that will play on... Like, in 4 years, a game that plays on the Xbox One still will be completely blown out of the water by a game that will only play on the Xbox One Z.
That would be a good name for it.
The Xbox.
Oh man, that would be a great name for it. This is the Xbox. Yeah, that would be. You do have to wonder, don't you? Because we're at a point now where, because with other previous video game generations, we had, you go from the NES to the SNES, from the Master System to the Mega Drive. That's 8-bit to 16-bit. That is a huge improvement in fidelity.
Yeah.
Then you move from that to the N64, PlayStation 1, the Saturn. You go, okay, that's an entire third dimension. That's, again, a huge improvement in something. Well, all those games, now, looking back at them, all those games look like shit, and SNES games still look fucking rad. But, that's the march of progress. You could say the same thing about fucking original Xbox 360 games. And then I guess you have, like, they refined that into the PS2 and the original Xbox. And then you had the jump from that into PS3, Xbox 360, which was the jump into HD.
Yeah.
But you could make an argument that you wouldn't never need to change the architecture of these consoles in such a dramatic way and make like an Xbox 2, for instance, that didn't play any Xbox One games or anything before that. Especially considering now Xbox are just going, fuck it, man, this can play everything we've ever made.
Yeah.
Like, Xbox are leaning into that so hard. They're going, PCs can now play all of our games, and also we can play most 360 games and a handful of OG Xbox games.
Yeah.
So, like, you could totally see a world where they didn't actually have to do such a dramatic hardware iteration that it cut everything off, and they just kept going, yeah, alright, we'll do another Xbox One X in 4 years' time, and by that point, we'll start saying, okay, well, not every game has to play on both now, and then 4 years after that, you go, okay, now none of the games coming out will play on the original. Because you can just assume by that point there'll have been enough good sales and whatever, and 4K TVs will have caught on, I guess, probably.
Yeah.
They're already getting pretty cheap now. You can get like a 45-inch 4K TV with HDR for like 450 quid from Sainsbury's.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, dude. So, like, yeah, I think you're right, Dylan. You could totally see a world where they just kept iterating on it and it just never changed.
Yeah, I don't think it's feasible at all. Just like, it sort of even makes sense, doesn't it? Because it means they can keep selling stuff. If as soon as you got that next one out, then you've lost some player base a bit quicker, haven't you? Because the people have to buy what. So if you go from Xbox 360 to Xbox One, the people have to buy the Xbox One to get the Xbox One games. But if you go from Xbox One to Xbox One X, I don't have to buy the Xbox One X to still play all the new games coming out.
You don't?
But I think people are still going to buy that Xbox One X because it's a new cool thing, right?
Totally. And there is a reasonable chance that in a few years' time, when you've got some money and you're looking to get into 4K, you'll probably upgrade to an Xbox One X.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And it will port across your...
Yeah, keep my games, because, to be fair, like, I download a fuck ton of them now anyway, because it's just easier.
Yeah. It'll even take all your saves across.
Yeah. So cool.
Yeah, like, they've got the controllers right this time, I think.
Yeah,
you know,
they don't really need much changing, do they?
Yeah, like, the DualShock 3 was a real piece of shit. But the DualShock 4 is fucking incredible. The Xbox One controller doesn't have that totally shit D-pad. Oh, that's a strange one, isn't it? Imagine that. Imagine if it's just, this is it. We're stuck. The Xbox that will always exist is the one with the kind of bad name.
Does have a kind of bad name, doesn't it?
Little bit.
It's always weird calling it the Xbox One. It's my third Xbox.
This doesn't make any sense at all. Yeah. And then, Sony. They've called it the PlayStation 4. We've made 4 of them. What more do you want?
To be fair, like, the Xbox 360, what the fuck's that about? They've not had a good run of names, have they?
No, not at all. The 360 is such a weird one as well, because it's like... I'd almost get if they're just like, this is the Xbox 180. Because it's a complete turnaround of the original Xbox. But the 360, it's like we've gone round in one big circle, and now we're actually kind of just making the same thing. Though that's probably not what they were going for. What was its code name? Didn't it have a sweet code name?
It did, but I can't remember.
Was the Xbox One the Durango?
Not a very good code name.
No, not at all.
But, like, the Xbox One X had Scorpio. That's pretty good.
Yeah, Scorpio is a sweet name.
Well, there's a whole list of them here.
The Xbox Next, the Xenon, the Xbox 2, the Xbox FS, or the Nextbox.
Nextbox is pretty good.
Yeah, Nextbox is pretty sweet.
The Wikipedia says, codename Xenon, preliminary name Xbox 2.
That makes sense. I think I've heard Xenon as the one that's been thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. because Sony always have fucking sweet ones, don't they? Like they had the Project Orbis,
It's pretty weird.
and I think because Orbis was the PlayStation 4,
Yeah.
and then they had Neo, which was the PlayStation 4 Pro,
Yeah.
and then they have Morpheus, which is PlayStation VR. Because apparently they fucking love the Matrix.
I was really surprised that, because I don't know how we've managed to get answers. I was really surprised that VR wasn't a much bigger part of the next console sort of life. Like, there's the PlayStation VR and it sold really well, but E3 didn't really focus on VR in any way, did it? There was a bit of it, but it was never the main. But like that seems like that next step. That seems like that 8-bit to 16-bit or the 16-bit to 3D.
Yeah, the very last step is actually just full on VR.
Immersion, yeah. They always talk about immersion, but you'd think that's the final step. But
Yeah.
well, not the final step. I guess the final step would be like plugging us into the machine.
Yeah.
One day we can hope.
Yeah, but even then, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, plugging you into the machine, like VR, to bring it full circle, as I think we sort of come to a close here. I think even if you could have a holodeck would give you like an experience like Halo or Call of Duty or whatever that would be incredible. Like if there was a way that you could have a holodeck program that let you play the next Uncharted and it was literally just real life, but you could do loads of cool shit like Nathan Drake, that'd be awesome. But
Yeah.
also a holodeck experience couldn't give you Bastion.
Yeah, true.
You know, it couldn't give you Hotline Miami.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it could in a really fucking awful way.
Have you seen that guy who's developing 3D Hotline Miami?
That sounds terrifying. Is he a convicted murderer?
It looks cool as shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it just straight up, yo, 3D Hotline Miami, check it?
Basically, yeah. Like, it's exactly the same, just in 3D, which means you can't see people coming, which is terrifying.
Oh man. Yeah, like I think there's a lot to be said for that whole whole genre of video games that is the sweet indie game.
Yeah. They're almost different. They're different things at this point, right? You've got your sort of big everybody gaming games, and then you've got those little ones that I guess are now the idea of this exclusive sort of gamer culture that you used to have, where it was like you had a lot of gatekeeping and it was all terrible. It's almost that aspect of it is now the indie games that nobody really plays. But I don't think it's as I don't know. Well, I'm not in those environments, but I don't know if it's as toxic or anything. But I think that's sort of the more weird gamer person games, and now everybody plays big games, right?
Yeah. I had a conversation at work the other day where someone was like, "Oh yeah, my housemate he's asking if I want to go halves on either the new Call of Duty or the new FIFA." I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool. Like a bit unusual that you wouldn't just like get your own copies, so you could like play online together or whatever." Like he was like, "Well, I don't have a next generation console," and sort of moved on from that. And he said, "Yeah, so did you ever play? Have you ever heard of? He said to me, have you ever heard of this game, Red Dead Redemption?" Like I've heard there's a new one coming out. Like that was one of my favourite games, and I said, "Yeah, I know Red Dead Redemption. Yeah, the new one's coming out like in February or March, something, isn't it?" And it's sort of in my head, I was because I love the dude. He's a really really safe dude. But in my head, I was thinking, "Oh man, how little you know." Just thinking, we have not even scratched the surface of this one with me yet, mate.
We have lived very different lives.
Yeah, you don't know what you're getting into on this one. It's like it's that weird thing. I almost find like I have to catch myself talking about video games with people because like people will be talking about games, but it will be those big games. Then it'll be the big ones that now everyone plays.
Yeah.
And then people say, "Mark, like you playing games at the moment?" And I just have to go, yeah. Oh, playing a bit of this, bit of that. Because I'm just thinking like.
You have to hide your depravity.
It's like if I told him that I was going to spend all weekend playing Wolfenstein and Wolfenstein 2, they'd be like, "What? The fuck is that?" I was like, what? I was like, yeah, one of my favourite games from last year that I'm still playing now because they've brought the elusive contracts out, so I play it every week. It's like Hitman. What?
Yeah.
Because they're all sitting having extended conversations about Battlefront too.
There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about Battlefront too. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I definitely couldn't have spoken to them for an hour about Hotline Miami and Terraria.
No.
It's like what the fuck is that? And yeah, lovely guys, but definitely one of those ones where I almost have to catch myself because I go, no, you haven't known me for long enough for me to start going full on fucking video game nerd on this one.
This is my benefit of being in an office full of PhD physicists. I got people to talk to. Although there is one person in my office who, anytime anybody starts talking about like Star Wars or Star Trek, just gets annoyed. And it's like, we're in a physics building. We are astronomers. We're allowed to talk about
come
stuff.
on, this is our thing. Yeah, like you'd think, a group of engineering graduates who are all males in their early 20s would probably also be the same. But there's
Respect, right? Yeah.
a lot of FIFA chat, man. You'd fit right in, Jack. A lot of FIFA chat.
Engineers are the lads of the science world. Everybody knows it.
Oh, they totally are. I really hate it. They're not my people, damn it. Oh, right. I think we can call that a show.
I think that's come to a good close, yeah.
The problem with this one is now no one can ever talk about any indie game ever again because we've just spoken about all of them.
I was thinking this. When Braid came up, and it was just like, it wasn't going to be my one because I thought, that's Tom's thing. But it was just like, can't talk about that now. Like, scratch that off the record.
You just have to wait a while.
We'll just have another extended discussion on indie games in a year or something.
Just wait a while and then just like chat about Terraria forever and ever. Just be like, yeah, right, we're just going to talk about mining strategies in Terraria for 2 hours. Name that episode, don't listen to this episode.
Yeah. It's just, because we keep this a surprise amongst ourselves, but that one is just like, okay guys, everyone play Terraria all week this week. It's like, why? No reason.
It's important that we all know what's going on in Terraria this week.
Yeah. Alright.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, this has been Shouting Over Static, a video game show and tell project. I have been Mark. Someone has been Dylan.
Hello, bye, wait, something.
Someone else has been Jack.
Oh, yeah, it's been good.
Apparently, I found the goodbye format that makes people say hello. Shit. Find us on iTunes. We're on iTunes, fully up to date on iTunes, and will be now. I believe I'm going to be uploading these on Wednesdays.
Cool.
So find us.
Podcast.
Yeah, find us on iTunes because I can usually get them edited by the end of the weekend, but I like to give myself a bit of leeway. So
yeah,
these will be going up on Wednesdays. Find us on iTunes, subscribe, leave a review, that kind of thing. From what I've heard, that's actually really useful. Find us on
subscribe. I think is the.
Oh, that's yeah. You don't like things on iTunes though. That's YouTube.
Yeah, but you can just like it in general, in like a sort of more ethereal sense. Just enjoy.
Yeah, oh yeah, this is true.
Enjoy, talk about, listen to again.
I like it. Listen to regularly. Go on to YouTube and find us at Low Expectations Media. There's a playlist on there. There's also some other stuff floating around. You can also find Jack at...
Good job, Jack.
Oh, shit, that was
You can
me.
also find Jack at...
Crackerjack Game, or Crackerjack on YouTube, I think. I think that's what it is.
So, sweet. Okay. That's some plugs.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't have anything.
Everyone say bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.